It's an honor to be here tonight, and I'm really grateful to be ministering to you today, and all protocols observed, and to welcome you to tonight's service. So tonight, I'd like us to handle a topic, and I'd like it to be as practical as possible, and it will be something that touches everyone's life, no matter what age group you're in, no matter your financial status, no matter even the location, even the language doesn't even limit you from being in this subset. And the topic of today is when answer meets vessel. No matter what. And in line of this, essentially we are talking about understanding why our answered prayers and our biggest goals are tied to people, and identifying the key vessels already in or needed in our lives. So we are going to take some notes. So let me prepare you for that. There'll be some key pointers here and there. And then hopefully if we get time at the end of the session, we'll also have a small assignment. So the topic is when answer meets vessel. This is session 1. And identifying the key vessels already needed in our lives. So what if one thing that you've been praying about or been praying for isn't what or but a who? Like a WHO. What if your answer is not in your hands yet because it's currently in someone else's vessel? As human beings, we are created to be social creatures, and in essence, we are not meant to live in isolation. We have a deep longing inside of us that needs to be associated with a community, and honestly, most of our biggest joy and fears come from interacting with people. Some of us have been hurt, betrayed, even got into strife with someone or some people just because of the need to associate with other human beings. And we don't downplay the things that we've gone through personally when it comes to associating with other people in also relationships. So in this session, we are going to look at the why. It will be more on the mindset shift, identifying and establishing also the why and the what. And we'll also understand the principle and how to identify the key relationships in our lives. And then from the next session, we'll focus on the practical application and even the action, how to build, leverage, standing out, and even how to manage the relationships and connections. So, but in all of these, relationships are still vital, and they're the most powerful force in our lives, and essentially they're also a source of life. Relationships drive the world, and each one has its own purpose. Nowadays, even when someone is looking for a job, it's no longer about the most qualified person in the room, but it's like the question is, who do you know inside the office? Who do you know inside the room? So most people nowadays are leveraging most relationships more than when it comes to qualification. There are some things that you see being done out there, and you really question the person who did that. But it was like your ideal client or customer is 2 degrees away. So that means it doesn't have to be a customer, but it could be a potential partner. It could be a business partner. It could be someone who's going to give you a job. They are just 2 degrees away. Just 2 people away from connecting with them. It could be a potential partner. It could be and so we even see this aspect of relationship portrayed even in animals. They are just even they themselves have social groups. We see them in lions, we see them in hyenas, we see them in elephants, and every one of them has a social group. And most of the time, any animal found outside the park is usually the very vulnerable and can easily fall to prey. We even see this, and just as there are principles to nature, there are also principles to life. Every pair that we make, just know that the answer has already been given, but it's given in the form of a human being, whether it's finances, getting a job, starting a business, looking for a spouse, or even building a ministry. All these things require relationships, all these things require people. And even as we go through scripture, we get to learn one fundamental aspect, and one fundamental key is that all blessings come from God through men to men. As in, I'll be instructed to bless someone because God has used me as a man. God has used me to be an answered prayer. Let's say Aleph is an answered prayer to someone. God will use Aleph to answer someone else's prayer. It's just that simple. And so, given an example, KTM as in is an whole answered prayer for someone. It wouldn't be possible for KTM to be an answered prayer if Dad didn't take the initiative to start. And if he didn't take the initiative to start, then only God knows where we'd be today. But at the same time, he took that initiative, he took that heed and accepted that call to build KTM and to start KTM. That soon we also found a community in it. We soon found a shelter in it. We soon found a place that we can grow in, exercise our gifts, learn about ourselves, discover our talents, and also discover who we are, and also become an answered prayer to other people. And something happened yesterday. I'll just give an example. There's a project that we are working on, and this project is
Thank you, Jesus, for your power, for your presence in His place.
Contacts. I realized I didn't have someone directly in contact who does music, and so I consulted a few people here and there. But at the end of it all, it wasn't that a certain level of, let me say, operation of work, knowing that your work is not good. No one would recommend you or put their name in a place whereby it would be very easy to tarnish their name if they didn't trust you, or whether you didn't have a relationship with them. And I realized all these people have goodwill for their friends. All these people are connected by that through one person or to another, or directly connected to that person. And so it just needed me to step out there, get to understand who I need, and then from there I'll receive the answer. And that answer came in the form of someone being recommended to us for that position. And I researched a bit when it comes to a few statistics here and there. And I found these statistics very interesting, and I wanted to share them with you. And so it's about relationships, or close relationships, or even friends. Statistically, not having close relationships is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And on average, I don't think even an average smoker smokes that much. Probably maybe 10 or 9. I don't think it's that much. And so the second point is that the brain areas activated during isolation are the same as those activated during physical pain. And I found this very interesting, that we tend to easily, quote unquote, forget the good times that we've had probably of our timeline of our lives. But we never forget those memories of pain, whereby we went through isolation, whereby we went through being segregated from the community. And it's such a it's such a pain that it can easily manifest actually to be a physical pain. And so another statistic I got is that if you have close friends or strong close friendships, you are likely to live longer than other people. And it's the same case that also applies when you go to hospitals, that the people who are visited less oftenly tend to heal slower than compared to those who always have people visiting them. Usually those people recover very fast. And so we are going to unpack now the concept of when the answer meets a vessel. And so the faith foundation of this will be, while God is the source, people are often the channel. He works through human agency. And to give an example or illustrations of this is, when you order, let's say, something on Jumia or something on Bolt food, or maybe even a gadget or a phone. You can order it online, that's quote unquote prayer. But delivery will be through someone, and that will be the vessel. Someone has to bring it to your door. And to give an example, we'll go about Elisha and the widow's oil. In the book of 2 Kings chapter 4 from verse 1 to 7, they're about 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 1 to 7. And so in this scenario, it was the widow was telling Elisha what she had in her house, and it was just oil. And Elisha's instruction wasn't for her to pray more. It was go borrow vessels from all your neighbors. And when she did that, here's one thing I observed. The miracle wasn't limited only by the number of vessels. The miracle was only limited by the number of vessels she gathered. I've tried to research everywhere and to get figures as to how many vessels she got. But none, funny thing, there's not even a number of them. But it's stunning how the miracle was limited by the number of vessels she gathered. Secondly, her answer was hidden in the neighbor's willingness to help. So if people didn't refuse to help her, then that means she would have less oil to even sell and to sustain herself. And the oil flowed until the last vessel was filled. And that was very interesting, until the last vessel was filled. So it didn't matter how many vessels that she had, but it only flowed until to the last vessel. And so the most interesting thing I'd like you to pick from here is that the miracle was limited only by the number of vessels she gathered. The miracle that you're expecting is limited also to the number of the people that you have around you, and the willingness to say yes, the willingness to support you, the willingness to see who you really are, to see the greatness in you. So relationships can either break you or make you. And usually say, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. And 90% of your success in life will be deemed from the relationships that you have. And so if you always hang out if you always hang out with certain people, just know your character is either 80% are certain character of those people, or there's not even an or actually. It's either that or that. The second example we're going to take a look at was the relationship between Lot and Abraham. Lot here really benefited. In essence, he got something that wasn't really his own, but by just the fact of association. Lot was blessed simply by being connected to Abraham, who carried the covenant with God. And one of the things that Lot got was overflow of wealth. There was Lot's prosperity wasn't earned through personal covenant with God. It was overflow from being around someone who was. The second thing that he got was opportunity for growth. He was able to expand his wealth and influence beyond his own capacity. We can only imagine how much Lot would have been able to toil and to get on his own. But by the mere fact that he was associated with Abraham, who carried a blessing, everything that ran down from Abraham also came down to him. And even we see that he also got protection when also freed from Sodom and Gomorrah, only because Abraham intervened. That example, because there are many examples that we can look at from scripture, but I'd like us to look at these three because I feel that these three carry what we're going to delve into. So the other example was Daniel and the governors and satraps. So that's Daniel chapter 6, verse 24. And so there's something interesting that's in Daniel 6, chapter 6, verse 24, that says, the men's decisions to scheme against Daniel led to the death of the entire families. And when you read it, you'll see that when the governors and satraps were caught by the king and they were it was commanded that they be thrown to the lion's den. The scripture says they were thrown together with their wives and children. And so that speaks a lot to even the person that you're going to marry, the person that you're going to be with. They play such a significant role in your life that their decisions, their way of living will affect you whether you like it or not. It's not an if, it's they'll affect you. Their decision, whether they are good or bad, they'll affect you. So spouses share in each other's consequences, and the wives and the children suffered the judgment tied to their husband's decisions. The second thing that we learn from this is integrity protects your legacy. And if these people were really had integrity, most of their families and the lineage could have survived. And the reason why, if you look into those olden times, the reason why the children also killed and the wives also killed is to avoid retaliation. In example, let's give an example of if it hadn't been for those governors and satraps planning against Daniel, the whole lineage would be saved and they would have preserved the future generations of them. And so next, I'd like us to go through pillars of relationships. So we've looked at examples of relationships that were both mutual and examples of relationships that really made an impact on people's lives, even though they didn't even have an association or have a direct connection with the source. It's all because they were there. You might find that you might be associated with someone who works at a certain place in the government, but because you know them, you don't have to necessarily have done the course. Let's say an open tender opens up, or maybe a position opens up. Chances that they'll consider their first circle, the inner circle first before they even extend the calling to outsider. And so we see this being portrayed, most of the part, most people, especially in scripture. And next, as we look at the pillars, we'll be looking at the pillars of relationships. So these are the things that sustain our relationships. And I'd like to take some time here to explain something a bit. And so number one pillar of relationships is relationships require commitment. Both sides must show up. Healthy relationships demand intentional effort from both sides. You can't expect loyalty, support, or help from someone you've barely invested in. And to give an example of this is, if person A randomly calls a distant contact asking for financial help and is denied, and person B, who has consistently checked in and nurtured the relationship, receives assistance from the same contact without hesitation. And so you can't really withdraw from a relationship bank that you haven't been depositing. You can't just call someone randomly and ask them for money. You can't call someone just out of the blues and just be like, I see you've posted a job, can you consider me? You can't call someone probably to ask for favors that only their deepest circle friends would, or people or family would receive or have the privilege to receive. And so commitment builds trust, and trust unlocks access. And so this speaks to all the relationships that we have in our lives right now. Even as we are talking about this, I'd like you to even reflect on things that you've gone through, whether it was in ministry, whether it is on where you are working, whether it was in the corporate world, whether it's in family. Reflect on these pillars and get to see where you position yourself. Be the judge of your own heart. Get to understand where you stand, where you went wrong for that relationship to fall, where you went wrong for things to go haywire. And so the lesson from this, the first one, relationships require commitment. Both sides must show up. You can't withdraw from a relationship bank that you haven't been depositing into. Commitment builds trust, and trust unlocks access. The second pillar we look into is relationships must be mutually beneficial. If you're always on the receiving end and never giving back, you're not in a relationship, you're just in a transaction. And strong relationships are a two-way street. And to illustrate that, I'll give an example that you find yourself that you always venting to your friend when you're going through something. But when they need someone to talk to, you're suddenly unavailable. And over time, that creates an imbalance or a distance. Same case, same example that we were given just before this. You can't be borrowing people money all the time. And then that day when they need assistance, when they call you, you're like, I'm really sorry, actually, I've just sent someone. Just what Kenyans usually say. Actually, you might talk to me, I'm too easy. I've just sent someone. I wish you called me earlier. I could have assisted. Oh, I'm really sorry. Some even go to the extent of saying, when you get the money, also assist me. When you get the money, so help me. And so relationships must be mutually beneficial. Talks about the mutuality must and care is what keeps the relationships alive. A one-sided connection will eventually collapse under the weight of unmet expectations because people will be thinking, this is what I demand of this. Like if I call you at this time of the night, you should be able to pick up the phone call. If and yet at the same time, when they call you when they're in need, you rarely even show up for them. And so we really have to reflect on that. The other thing is relationships thrive on consistency and not convenience. So the real connection is built through regular, sincere interaction, not random check-ins when you want something. And I know we all have those people around us, and they're always there, who will just call you because they need. There's a story I had a while back, and the story was talking about there was a group of friends, and there was one person in particular. This person would call each party in the group once a month, and they'd be like, hey, do you have 50 bob? You help me out. I'm kind of stuck. And since most people will consider 50 bob, that's maybe credit, or they don't have a problem with just assisting. But with time, people came to realize that he not only calls one person, he calls every person in the group, and that group had around 30 people. And so if you do the math, that person had at least, let's say, enough money to do maybe a small shopping and to do something. And he used to do that for around 3 months. But by the time people realized it, the consequences were people detached from him. People saw him as a disease, and people avoided him. And so don't treat people like resources, treat them like relationships. Consistency builds trust before the need arises. And so you can't, for example, you can't propose to someone you just met today. You need to work with them. You need to know them, at least know their name, know where they're coming from, know whether probably even related, and you want to propose to them today. You get to find out who they really are, get to see them in all their colors, get to see them when they are disappointed, get to see them when they are in panic, get to see them when their habits when it comes to money. You can't meet someone today and just propose to them. That will be just, unless you're doing it at gunpoint, and that's a different topic. And the fourth point here, pillar of relationships, is that relationships require respect for boundaries. And so even the closest relationships need healthy boundaries around time, energy, expectations, and style. To give an example for this, we can't expect dad to always be there for you. You can't expect dad to always handle your situation. That might be probably handled up in a meeting. And you can't keep on demanding his time every single time. there has to be boundaries, especially when it comes to people that you look up to, even your peers. I can't call Prophet Jesse at a certain time. I'd rather text him. I can't keep on calling dad and I see he's not picking up. I can't keep on calling mom and I see she's not picking up. I'd rather text. So I can't expect them to be there always. And so this is why you really have to honor people's space. Even in the deepest of relationships, you have to respect their boundaries. You can't be entitled to someone's money. You can't be entitled for someone to come through for you, to always show up for you every single time. And so respect deepens relationships. And you'll find that most of the relationships that are being sustained in your life right now are all because of you, both of you are respecting the boundaries that are there. And wherever there's entitlement, whether let's say someone calls me 2 times, and by the time I'm calling back, they're like, why didn't you pick up? Why didn't you pick up the phone call? I've been calling you. Don't you know I'm looking for you? The first question someone will ask, the first thing I'll ask myself is, who are you actually? It doesn't matter the kind of respect that I have for you or the kind of respect that you have for them. You'll feel this person has crossed a boundary that they weren't supposed to cross. And your image will be either tarnished or their image to you will be tarnished. And that thing will never be the same again because they've crossed a boundary. They've crossed something that you held dear to your heart. Now we'll trickle down into something and classify these relationships. We look into vessels that you need in your life, but we'll also look at the types of relationships and classify them so that you'll get to understand not every single relationship needs to be carried in the same way that you carry every single one in your life. And for example, let's say if you're going up country, and you're going up country, person A has let me say Suzuki Alto, and person B has Prado TX. It will take you, let's say for example, where you're going is muddy and let's say it's the rainy seasons. That kind of vehicle, that kind of relationship won't be able to get you, especially the Suzuki Alto, won't get you to your destination. What you need is a stronger relationship like a TX Prado to get you to your destination. When you want to carry a load, when you want to carry, let's say, a trailer from, let's say you brought in a shipment from China and you're picking it up at the port, you can't expect a Nissan Datsun. I don't know if some of you remember the Nissan Datsun. It was an old pickup. Really, back in the 2000s, it was really, really quite something. So it's a light car, and funny thing, it can carry around the weight of that car is around, that pickup is around 1.4 tons, and it can carry a maximum load of 1.25, 1,250 kg. You can't expect that Nissan Datsun to carry a shipment of 26 tons. By the time that trailer, that container is being actually placed on that Nissan Datsun, that pickup, the weight of it will crush that pickup. And that's the same thing that most of us are doing. You find yourself, you haven't really classified the relationships in your life. And that's why you are struggling to even build one. You're struggling to even sustain ones. Because everyone knows your problems. Everyone knows what you're going through. You don't keep secrets. You don't know how to confide in people. You don't know how to keep people's secrets. And every person now sees you as a parasite, honestly. because you haven't really generalized or classified the relationships that you have in your life. And to start with the types of relationships that we have, each person has, we'll start with number one, that is general relationships. These are the everyday relationships. Let's say going to the shopkeeper, going to the shop, how you relate to the shopkeeper. Let's say you are going to town and then you meet a stranger at the bus station, and probably you just have a chit chat. And how you learn about this relationship is most of these people that you meet, you only meet them once and you may never meet them again. These are general relationships. And how you handle them, how you handle these relationships will determine if they will graduate to be more than just a general one. And key points to maintain this relationship is how friendly are you when it comes to meeting new people, when it comes to meeting strangers. Another key point is honor. And the third one is discernment. For example, when you board a matatu and decide to give your seat to, let's say, someone who is older or a woman who is pregnant, just by that act alone, you have earned a place in their hearts, and it may unlock a door for you that you have never expected, probably even never expected. Probably she's wife to a certain MD that you're going to be interviewed there. And when you go to step into that office, you find her sitting there at the reception. And I can imagine you badly need this job. But at that moment, it won't matter per se your qualification, but it will matter the very act of how you made this person feel. There's a quote that usually says, people might forget what you told them, but they will never forget how you made them feel. People will forget every single word that you've said about them, every single word that you've said to them. But how you made them feel will draw them back to that memory, whether it's good, whether it's bad. And usually you find there are some of us who have inherited some names, whether through parents, whether through the people who have gone ahead of us, who have been mentored us. And such a name is either a door or is either a key or a padlock. And you find when you go to a certain office and say, I've been sent here by so and so, they'll say, actually, welcome here, welcome. We've actually been waiting for you. Have a seat. But there are some offices that you'll step into and mention a name and you'll be just away. Or because previously someone, that memory, that name brings up a memory that either people love or people hate. And when you get to understand honor, you get to understand those around you, those ones in a lifetime chances that you get to meet people every single day. Understand this, that those who perceive and know how to honor are never stranded in life. They may not be the most qualified, they may actually be the most uneducated people, but they understand honor. We see this in people who rise up to be great people in history, even in Kenya, even those that have established major companies. One of the keys that they've really honed in is honor. And so if you really understand how to honor people, especially strangers, those people that you meet every single day, you will never be stranded. So that was general relationships. The second type of relationship that we look at are seasonal relationships. So these are the relationships that are only there for a season, for a time, and for a purpose. How to know this? They are time bound. We must use them wisely and ensure to maximize them. And so the key points to maintain seasonal relationships are understand the purpose, understand the why. Why am I here? Why am I connected to this person? When you understand that purpose, honor their role in your life. Honor them for the role that they are playing, how they are lifting you up, how they are training you, how they are moving with you. Honor them. And thirdly, this is where most people usually get it wrong. You will start off somewhere really well. Someone will work with you well. Someone will train you in what they understand, give all the access into their holy of holies. But people don't know how to exit gracefully. And life is a small circle. And sometimes what goes around comes around. And there'll come a point whereby if you don't learn the art of exiting gracefully, the same door that once was opened up to you, you'll find yourself trying to knock at it. And at this time, it won't be opened. So you must learn the art of understanding the purpose of seasonal relationships. Honor the role of those that have been given to you in that season. And when the time comes, exit gracefully. And I'll give an example with, there's a place I used to work a while back. When I went there, I started off, I was just thrown into the pit, not pit, but into the fire. So without training and all that. But with time, the boss started noticing me, and he became close to me. And from that point, I got to understand that this isn't a permanent relationship. Yes, I'd like to work here at that place, but it's not a permanent place. Because we used to work long hours. We used to leave work at 3 a.m., sometimes even 4 a.m. And yet by 8 a.m., you expected back in the office. And so it was a really hard season to be able to manage everything else in my life. But at the same time, one thing I learned is that this is for a season. And so instead of complaining, I asked myself, what am I learning from this? And so looking back, by the time I was exiting, and even especially in the Christian body, and that's I'm really honing on the aspect of exiting gracefully, because I've seen how it has worked wonders in my life. I've seen how it has worked wonders in people's lives. Because you don't know which door you'll be knocking on tomorrow. By the time I was exiting, I gave in my notice, 1 month notice. Went to his office, talked with him, explained to him why I'm leaving. And no kidding, the guy approached me from that moment on to the end of that 1 month notice. The guy approached me more than 4 times, asking me to stay, promising that he'll give me an additional salary. And I didn't go back. But the key to that was that by the time the last day I was leaving, the boss himself, who was considered really hard to work with, to work under, the one who oppresses, that person himself threw me a farewell party. I was even surprised that he threw me a farewell party. He bought cake, called everyone from the other branches, came here and celebrated. Everyone gave a speech. And from there, I got to understand what it means to exit gracefully. And the promise I got from that boss was that if I'm ever stranded, if I ever need any assistance from any place, if I ever need to go back, just give him a call. There'll always be a position for me, no matter where I go. And I exited that place with this blessing, even him speaking into my life and all of that. And this is just a small example and just a small testimony of that. quite possible to design the seasonal relationships, how to maximize them, and at the same time know when to exit. Another example would be a child is usually in the stomach, in the mother's womb for 9 months. After 9 months, of which the mother was, before the lapse of 9 months, the mother would usually just be so much joy that finally gotten a child. There's a child in my womb, and I'm so joyous. She's so joyous. She's so excited. But a time comes when the baby says, I'm tired of this place. I need to get out. And the baby starts positioning him or herself for an exit. And so learn to take advantage of the blessings that come with seasonal relationships. Because most of these are the ones, how do I put this? Seasonal relationships come into our lives to propel us. They usually propel us at a high speed because it's like a catapult. They're meant to catapult us to another place. They're meant to shorten the number of years that could have taken us to do something or accomplish something into just maybe 1 year, maybe a few months. And when you learn to maximize them, whether it's in ministry, whether it's in your business, whether it's in work, whether it's in your colleagues, learn to maximize them. Be the person that stop complaining about the hard schedule. Stop complaining about how things are hard. Ask yourself, what am I learning from this? Because honestly, that won't be your life. Some things are not sustainable, even how looking at the nature of this. There's a level at which you can work. And usually you find yourself, age will always come to you. Age will always catch up with you. And so there are conditions of not cohesive or for you to work there maybe long time or to be there, whether it's in ministry. Yet to learn what principles am I getting to learn in this season. Yet to design with the Holy Ghost, what am I needed to learn from this season? What am I needed to do from this season? And so from seasonal relationships, we are going to get into one of the most important ones, which are called covenant or destiny relationships. These are the relationships that have a major role to play in our life. And these ones usually last the whole lifetime. And I'd kindly beg every one of us here, these are the relationships that you should be willing to pay a sacrifice to maintain them. Never allow yourself to let a destiny relationships come to an end. If need be, you'll just swallow your pride. It won't kill you. You won't die just to swallow your pride. Because these are the people that God has orchestrated to walk with you through life. And you find that these people are the ones who keep you in check. And if you look well, without these relationships, probably there are some things that you couldn't have done, or there's some things you have done. And the key points, and also let me start with the examples. The examples of them are the relationship with your parents. Or let me go back. For the seasonal relationship, for examples of them are like your classmate, your colleague, maybe even your neighbor, and all that. That was for seasonal relationship. For the covenant or destiny relationships, the examples are the relationship with your parents, your spouse, your children, your friends, and even your mentors. Above all, swallow your pride to keep these relationships. It doesn't matter what has happened before. It doesn't matter whether it was your fault or their fault. Come to a place of settlement in your heart and say that even though they wronged me, even though I wronged them, I'll ask for forgiveness. I'll say, I'm sorry. Even though they did this to me, I can already tell that God is going to use them in my life for quite a long time. And so the key points to maintain these covenant relationships are protect the bond with your loyalty. Stay committed even through the challenges. even the season that we are even in right now, learn to see beyond what's happening now and start working towards that future that you're seeing. What's your purpose in KTM? If your purpose is linked to KTM as a covenant relationship, then what are you doing to implement it? What are you doing to bring that future to the present? And so protect that bond with loyalty, whether it's with, let's say, example, with dad, let's say with mom, with Apostle James, with Prophet Jesse, anyone in your circle. It doesn't have a certain age limit or something like that. Because you see, for example, there are some friends who you'll have this covenant relationship with. The person that you're with, the person that you're dating, those who are dating, and also those who are expecting to date. The people that you come across with who are meant to be covenant relationship with, do all it takes to sustain it. And it won't be easy. Let me not lie, it will not be easy. Because secondly, you need to learn how to communicate openly and respectfully. Don't let issues build up. Don't let offense build up in your heart without communicating it. If Prophet Jesse wronged me, I'll be quick to make sure that to communicate it in an open and respectful manner. Say, Prophet Jesse, I really hoped that you do ABC, but you didn't do ABC, and I felt maybe disrespected, maybe I felt this, and make atonement as fast as possible, because you can't afford to lose these people. And so the other thing is avoid comparison and competition. I can't be here and I'm competing, let's say, with Apostle James. He has his own area of strength, and I need that area of strength. Astrologer Jack, he has his own area of strength, and I need that. I can't come in the picture and now try to compare myself and have competition with him. And so, with those three types of relationships, we've identified what they are, their purpose, and even keys to maintaining them. And so, in all of this, now picture yourself kind of picking and dropping the people that you have in your life into those categories. Is this person a seasonal relationship that I have with? Is person B meant to be a covenant relationship? Is person A just someone just general I've met today? When you know how to classify these things, you will make your life simpler. You'll be in a place to discern who's supposed to be what and who's supposed to be where. And now that we've explored the different types of relationships, those three, it's now important for us to understand that not all of them are equal in purpose, just as we have seen. Some people are in your life not to just work with you, but to shape you, to stand with you, or even to receive from you. And so this brings us into another deeper layer of relational discernment, which is identifying the three types of vessels in your life. And these vessels are really key in your life, that each one of us needs one, at least for each category. One in your purpose. And so let's break them down one by one so you can recognize who's in your life and how to steward each role with wisdom. So you can have a heading of categories of connection. And the first one will be the guide. So we'll have real life examples through scripture, and also we'll also compare it with examples in real life people that we either know or have heard of or even seen. And so the guide, these are the people ahead of you, mentors, advisors, leaders who provide wisdom and direction. So that could be your leader, maybe in your department, that could be your leader probably in the ministry that you're in, that could be someone, your boss somewhere, that could be someone who is an overhead when it comes to where you are or the season that you are in your life. And so to give an scriptural example would be Moses and Jethro. That's in Exodus 18. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, he played the role of a guide and a mentor in Moses' life. He gave wise counsel. He warned Moses that leading alone would wear him out. He introduced the leadership structure. He taught Moses how to delegate and raise other leaders. And he also knew how and when to step back. So after offering guidance, he returned to his land and understanding that his role was seasonal. So that is Moses and Jethro, the guide. To give a real life example, I'll give an example with someone probably I know few people even know, because actually I had to research it and even get the person. So I'll give at least everyone knows Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is the founder of Apple, that is iPhone, iPad, iMac, all of them. Apple wouldn't be where it is today without someone called Mike Makula. So Makula was an early investor and mentor at Apple. He mentored Steve Jobs and his business partner. So Makula came into the picture when Apple was just in the backyard, wasn't just in the garage. And he was working at Intel then. He had just retired at 35 and had got wind that there are some two people working on something that is new tech. That was around 1970 something, if I'm not wrong. 1970 something. And when it came to Steve and his business partner, Steve Jobs, those guys were filthy. They were around, I think, they were below 25 actually. I think Steve Jobs at that time was either 21 or 22. When he saw the invention that these people were working on, that time was kind of like an iMac, but a really old version, a PC version, he was very intrigued as to how these people were able to come up with such an invention. And he really believed he was the first person who invested in Apple before it even was discovered, even leave alone that city, before it was even discovered in the whole world. He invested $250,000, for which then was quite some money. But by the time he was exiting Apple, this guy called Mike Makula, the investment he had made of $250,000 gave him $200 million and that was between less than 40 years. He netted around 200 million. He was the first person who helped Steve Jobs write the first business plan. Steve Jobs knew, and his business partner knew how to create the tech, knew how to talk about it, but they didn't know how to operate the business. So Makula helped write the first business plan and shaped its marketing philosophy. He really believed in Steve Jobs, because there's an interview where, if you search online, Mike Makula went on a debate with Bill Gates. Back then, Bill Gates was below 30 years old or something. It was a very old video. And they were debating. Mike Makula really believed in what Steve Jobs was doing. that even went head to head with Bill Gates and really squared him down on that debate. So this is just an example of a guide, someone who comes into your life to walk with you, to journey with you, and to even believe in you in your early phases as you're still building. And then also understand that there are levels to this. There are guides to each level that you're in life. Get to understand who they are and get to see their purpose. The second person or the second group, subgroup that we look at is the ally, which is the peer. Or your peer is PEER. That means someone who is maybe the same age group as you are, or someone who is in the age bracket as you are. So these are the people beside you, your peers, your partners, your friends who provide support, collaboration, and encouragement. And we all know this example of David and Jonathan, whereby Jonathan became a covenant friend who stood with David, not just for personal gain, but because he recognized God's hand on his life. He gave David honor, protection, and loyalty, even when it meant sacrificing his own future. And with that alone, David and Jonathan made a covenant. They bound themselves to their friendship. And Jonathan protected him. He warned David of Saul's plan and even defended him. And through it all, we see both of them being loyal to this friendship and ally. So take a look at this. This relationship was mutually beneficial for both of them. And each one of them was contributing, let me say, measurable quantities of work when it came to sustaining that relationship, that friendship. And another example that we'll have was, you may not know these people, but there's someone called Sergey Brin and Larry Page. They are the founders of Google, the ones who created Google. And even when Microsoft was starting, Bill Gates had a business partner called Paul Allen. And so these were co-founders who were allies, who built empires together. Their skills complemented each other. So one knew how to sell, one knew how to build. And they were in the early 20s when they started out. But because even though the challenges, even though they were the same age, they both supported each other. They supported the vision. They supported and gave in their all to support and to build these companies to what they are today. Lastly, what we look at is someone called the beneficiary, that is. These are the people that you're called to lift up. These are your mentees. These are your team. Probably at work, you have a team that's looking up to you for decisions. Probably it's in ministry, you are leading a team who look up to you to do some things, who you mentor, your mentees, your proteges, and pour into them positions you as a leader and often brings you unexpected returns and fulfillment. Because down the line, someone will remember, someone took a bet at me. And all of us here, we're all here because someone took a bet at us or on us to be the people who we are today. There's some point in our lives whereby we didn't know anything. We are just a confused molecule. But because someone believed in us, we are able to learn and train and get to really understand our purpose, get to really understand who we are. And so that is the beneficiary. And so that is the people, those are the people who are under you. Those are the people who have been trusted by God to you. And it's up to you to ensure that you're able to maximize that season that you are with them. An example that we can have is when you look at Paul. Paul was everywhere in the Bible, and he really worked with a lot of people, to the aspect that he worked with Timothy, brought him up like his son, and he really invested into him. And Timothy also became a vital vessel for carrying on the mission. We see that with Titus, we see that with Silas, and even Luke himself. And he really shaped Timothy to who he is, who he was as an apostle. Yeah. A real life example that we'll give is someone called in Korea, someone called Chang Ju-yang. This name, you may not be familiar with it, but if I mention the company that this guy started, you will know him. He's the founder of Hyundai. He's the one person who founded Hyundai. This guy grew up. When you read his biography, it's very interesting how people can go through so much trouble, so much face so much problems, but at the end of it all, rise up to become pillars of a society, of actually a nation. So this guy called Chang Ju-yang, he transformed South Korea's economy by building Hyundai. And it's funny how Hyundai, actually, when it started, it wasn't a vehicle manufacturing company. It started out as a construction company, which it still is even today, still a construction company. Later on, now the guy down the line, he started building now cars, but nevertheless, he still honed in and built an industry that South Korea really relies on. He went also into building Hyundai to be a brand that also builds ships. I know not many people know this, but Hyundai also builds ships, and he also built a port. And he built a legacy in how many others he lifted along the way. He believed in empowering local talent, and when a few others did, he mentored a lot of engineers, a lot of technicians, and business leaders from humble backgrounds. And he launched the careers of thousands of who would go to lead Korea's industries and to raise it up to where it is today. And he was a really key player in South Korea. If you really look at it, from everything that I've studied, from everything that I've researched on, his honesty, if he didn't exist, South Korea wouldn't be what it is today. And so that is, we've covered the categories of connection. That is the guide, we have the ally, and we also have the beneficiary. And so as we finish off, this is the assignment that I was talking about. I'd like each one of us to take out either your phone or maybe a notebook. And I'd like you to just write these 3 headings. So the first heading, let it be guides. The second one, let it be allies, that is your peers. The third one, let it be beneficiaries. And so I'd like to task you with, under each heading, write down the names of people currently in your life. Who are your Jethros? Who are your Jonathans? Who are your Timothys? And if a category is empty, don't worry, just put a question mark. And as you write down the names of these people, reflect on the impact that these people have in your life, whether it's your guide, stroke mentor, whether it's your ally, stroke your peer, beneficiary, stroke your mentees. Think about the impact that they've had in your life. And as we step into this week, as we continue this week, and even as we plan to meet next week, I'd like you to reach out to each person, at least one person of each category, And whether it's to say a thank you, whether it's to encourage them, or whether it's to point to them, make sure that you reach to one of each category. And so with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening in. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And that has been all from my end. Thank you. In case of any questions, you can ask.
Yes, we can continue to give a lot of applause to the teacher of the hour, that is Lord Lee. All of us will agree that it has been a very enriching session. Yeah, it has been wisdom upon wisdom, understanding upon understanding. Yes, and we bless the Lord for having you in our midst, Lord Lee. Yes, I know, like, we really gained a step. Mbele. As I continue to talk, I think whoever is projecting should be able to project the announcement and stuff. Yes, so it has really been a good and enriching session. More so, like the disciplines that are required when it comes to the place of building and also sustaining different categories of relationship, and that's very important. Yes, as whoever is projecting is continuing to projecting, maybe we can say it is that hour of giving. We can go to our MPesa. The payment details by MPesa is you go to Lipa na MPesa. Then the PayBill number is 522522. Then account number is 1157 028 047. I'll repeat again. These are the payment details. You go to Lipa na MPesa 522522. Then account number will be 1157 028 047. And also at the same time, it's good that you appreciate the minister of the hour, because I know, like, he has blessed us. So if you wish to bless him, you can bless him by his phone number, that is 0799 569 435. Yeah, so if you want to you have a gift, just to thank the minister of the hour for the good work that he has done, and also at the same time to ground the very wisdom, the science and osmosis, yes, to yourself. You can gift in via this number 0799 569 435. Yes, I think now there's nothing that. Yes, there have been no much further ado. Thank you all for tuning in, and also we appreciate our parents for being in the house. Yes, they pass their greetings. They love us very much, and we love them right back. Yes, so I think we can call it a day or a service. Tukuwe na wiki njema.
Thank you, Jesus, for your power, for your presence in this place. I am your power, I am your presence, and I thank you, O God, for your touching your people. Oh, Prince of Peace, I just want to release your power. I just want to see your kingdom manifest upon the earth. King of kings, I just want to release your power. I just want to see your kingdom manifest upon the earth. I manifest upon the earth, on the earth. I manifest upon the earth, on the earth. I manifest. a loving God. He will lift you up. Open your heart. His glory is here with us. He's a loving God.